Shop is going to talk about what does it really take to be a great coach? What does it really take to develop other people? What are the skills? What do we need to do as coaches to truly be successful? And when you think about everything that goes on in the world, one of the things that we have to do when we coach people is to be present. So first and foremost, we have to ask ourselves, why do we even coach? The reason we coach is so there are two main principles. One, we want people to look in the mirror. We want people to realize their strengths and where they have opportunities to improve. Now, number two, after they see something in the mirror, to get them to take action on it. That doesn't always mean it's something bad, but more importantly, it's something that they can do to elevate themselves. Now, what is a great coach? What can we do to get somebody to look in the mirror? First of all, we have to understand the power of self-awareness. When I think about self-awareness, it's really that ability to be honest with yourself, to realize how you come off, the perceptions you create. And I love the work by Tasha Eurich. She talks a lot about, in her book, Insight, in her survey, 95% of the people said they were highly self-aware. When she tested them, she found out only 10% of the people were aware. That is a major 80 to 85% fallout of people who really think they're self-aware, meaning they're fooling themselves. They're not being honest with themselves. Think about it. When you give someone constructive feedback and they give you a nonverbal such as, what are they saying? They're saying, I don't accept the feedback. And they cut themselves off from even owning a mirror, more or less looking in a mirror. So what makes a great coach? A great coach is someone who asks questions, listens, states back understanding. They understand the battle of telling versus asking. See, if I go up to someone and say, you have a crappy attitude, does someone really go, you know what? I think you're right. I've been horrible for about a decade. And some people have had a bad attitude for a decade. And so if I ask someone a question such as, well, what are some of your strengths that your teammates really love? And what are some areas where your teammates would love to have you elevate your game in terms of collaboration and cooperation? Now, hearing that question, someone might say, well, wait a minute, that's not very direct. That's really soft. It's a conversation. You don't want to come out with guns ablazing because people are going to start ducking. They're going to start hiding. You're starting a conversation. So a highly self-aware person is somebody who looks in the mirror, is honest with themselves. They seek feedback. They want to look in the mirror. They purchase more than one mirror for their own house. And so the reason we coach is so people can look in the mirror and so they can develop themselves honestly. Now, what is a great coach again? A great coach is somebody who shows up, is present. Now, recently, I was down in Orlando, Florida. We ran our first Progress Coaching Summit, and we had about 25 customers. And I did something that was pretty risky, and everyone seemed to be relatively okay with it. We role-played almost the whole first day, gave them about 6 scenarios, and about mid-afternoon, I could see the fatigue. And it was interesting because I was trying to make a point, and everyone was like, I'm just, I'm grinding, I'm tired. Not everybody, but some people, and they were talking about, they knew the value of practice. We didn't have an attitude in the building that was negative. Yet, a couple people said to me, wow, we're doing a lot of role playing. I said, are you tired? I'm exhausted. I said, now, think about how you feel and think about coaching someone once or maybe 2 people a day for 8 to 12 minutes. Does it feel doable? Everyone goes, oh, yeah. Oh, okay. I see what you're doing. I said, it is a grind. If we do not practice our craft, if we do not practice being present, if we do not practice asking questions, if we do not practice being present and not just showing up and throwing up, meaning we just show up, we're a few minutes late, and we just start talking, and we're telling people what to do, we have blown an opportunity, at least in that microcosm of that coaching session. So what we have to do is think about asking questions. We have to think about asking questions in terms of, what are my first 3 what questions? How am I going to state back what they said? How am I going to show them that I'm actually listening to them that builds trust. It's called active listening. How am I going to battle that telling and asking? So the key component to coaching is personal development, our own self-awareness. And somebody at the summit said something to me that I thought was fantastic. He said, I don't mind role playing. He goes, I like practicing. I like this. He goes, I get what you're doing. He said, what's so interesting when you do it is you learn so many other avenues. I said, right. I said, when you think about coaching, we go into it, with a very, daunting task. And I'm going to use a crass analogy. We're kind of naked on the ledge. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. And someone shuts the door behind us. We can't hide. We're in front of our person and we've got to be present. And the way we show up matters. The way we speak matters. Our nonverbals matter. Everything we do matters. Now, does that mean we're on pins and needles and, oh my gosh, I can't make a mistake? You'll make a mistake every single coaching session. Yet if you show up with a smile, if you show up with questions, and if you show up with a willingness to demonstrate active listening, stating back what somebody said, you have started a phenomenal coaching process. So a highly self-aware person is somebody, especially on the coaching side, who practices their craft. Now, I want to share something with you. I made a comment to a very good friend of mine, Jessica Druckman, who runs a great business, Concero, for legal and HR and L&D events. Their company's fantastic. And she made one of the greatest comments, and I've never thought about this. I said to her, when you think about, coaching someone, and our model is once a week, once every 2 weeks, 10 to 12 minutes maximum, okay? When I made this comment about, I challenge leaders when they say, I don't have time. I said, well, what happens when somebody quits the organization? Do you interview? And they say, yes. I said, well, that must take much longer than coaching. Why would you take interviewing over coaching? And she made this comment. I'll never forget it. She goes, well, I think people do subconsciously choose interviewing. I said, what do you mean? She said, everybody's putting their best foot forward. People who interview kind of know how to do it. People who come in for the interview, the candidates, they put their best foot forward. She goes, it's actually, for the most part, a really pleasing experience. You kind of know what you're going to do. And it is a great point. Yet, I don't think anybody would look in the mirror and say, yeah, the first interview I ever did was fantastic. It takes repetition. It took practice. It took doing it over and over again. That's what coaching needs. You do not arbitrarily improve what you do not practice. So think about, just for a second, why we coach. Think about your team right now. Think about the people on your team. And I'm going to give you 2 things to think about. Number 1 is something that we call the motivator. The McKinsey organization reported in the 4th quarter of 2022 that 41% of people were actively looking for jobs due to a lack of career development or career conversations. Think about that just for a second. That is a daunting statistic, okay? Number 2, think about a motivator. Think about the people on your team right now. If you're a leader, think about the people on your team. Now, be honest with yourself. How many of you have a list of your people and you know what their motivator is? Let me further define motivator. Motivator is where they want to go. See, we typically have a relationship with employees in terms of what we expect out of their job. That's motivation to the job. There's nothing wrong with that. Yet when we find out that someone wants to become a future leader, if we find out that somebody wants to become, works more with data and analytics and wants to work in more marketing initiatives, those are people that we can actually find out not only what their motivator is, but we do something about it. They become much more emotionally attached, not only to the job, but to you as the leader. Yet if we're only having conversations about what they do right or wrong as it relates to their present job, and we don't know where they want to go, we have lost a tremendous opportunity. We call it coaching to the motivator. When you find out where someone wants to go, it's huge. Now, let me give you another resource. Julie Giuliani has a great book called Promotions Are So Yesterday. She identified 8 things that motivate people in the workplace. It is not always the promotion. Number 2, I also think the way people like to work is important. So when you think about somebody who's intrinsic versus extrinsic, okay? Someone who's intrinsic is motivated by things inside the job. They love what they're doing. Someone who's extrinsic may like what they're doing, but they see it as a catalyst or an apparatus for something else. And those things can change based on bosses, teammates, industries, industry trends, what have you. So let me just share with you a second type of motivation, and that is collaborative versus independent. Someone who's independent likes to work on their own. Someone who's collaborative likes to work in a team-oriented environment. Now, I've been teaching coaching for, this will be my 31st year. And when you think about it, most people would say, oh, you're highly collaborative. Behind the scenes, I love to work on my own. My own employees will tell you he loves to work on his own. So finding out, do you like to work independently or do you like to work in a collaborative environment is crucial. Now, let me share with you a story of a friend of mine who's a graphic designer. And I love this story because it just epitomizes it and illustrates it so clearly. She is a high creative. I'm a high creative and innovator. And that's what she and I have in common. And she loves to do graphic design. She works in a small agency. She does graphic design work for direct clients. She holds her clients like sacred family. It's that important to her. Yet she does not like to work in a collaborative environment. She's actually an introvert, which is really interesting for me because I'm obviously not an introvert, but we get along great. And she was brought into the office at her organization, and they've kind of left her alone. High billable rate, a lot of billable hours, which is, let's be honest, with an agency is very important. And what she was told was, we'd like to promote you. She calls me up and she said, oh man, Tim, I gotta quit. I gotta find a new job. They want to promote me. And she's like really having this anxiety attack. I said, wait a minute. What a great thing. I don't think it's your thing, but what a great thing. And she goes, what are you talking about? I go, they want to keep you. They may be nervous that you're going to leave. Ask them, why are you offering me this? She said, oh yeah, I never even thought of that. I said, yeah, they're showing you really good, really nice gestures. You're going to have that conversation upward. So she did. And she said, look, this is what I like. She's intrinsically motivated. They were promoting her because they care about her. Those two things were like two ships passing in the dark. They were really vaulting her into a management position based on extrinsic promotional values. They didn't understand their own employee. Not bad people. They later learned, which is great. Then her friend got the management position who wanted to move up in the company. She wanted to manage people. She likes graphic design, does not love it like my friend. That's your classic example of intrinsic versus extrinsic. Now, what if she felt like she couldn't say no? She took the promotion, later hated it, left the company. The person who didn't get the job, what would she have done? She probably would have left the company, seen her promotional opportunity pass her by. I said, now you got to have a conversation with your friend. How do you two coexist? Because you're actually the better of the two in terms of graphic design. And they co-authored how they're going to work together. So when we're coaching, understanding our people and where they want to go, we call it the WIFT, what's in it for them. When you find out if someone wants to become a future leader, if you find out someone wants to work more with data, if you find out someone who wants to work more in a collaborative environment, you became a really, really tough leader to quit on. Think about that. It's called the emotional attachment. If I'm helping you become a future leader or to work more with marketing and data and graphics or whatever it might be, wouldn't that be tough to quit on? Now, if I'm only coaching you to get the job done well, now let's be candid. I usually cover this in the beginning when we call people into the office, an employee, and say, Marsha, I need to see you right away. What's the employee's first response? It's usually, uh-oh, what did I do wrong? Why? Because that's what we've conditioned people to believe. Yet if I find out where you want to go and I get in the front seat of the car with you and say, look, I'm going to drive with you until you get there, they're not going to jump out of your car. That's why we coach. That's why we ask questions. That's why we ask questions such as, where do you want to end up? What's your desired state? What would you love to do? What would you like to be doing more of? What's something you dislike that you'd like to have taken off your plate? What's ultimately going to happen is you're going to create a deeper understanding of who each and every one of your employees are. You just became very tough to leave. So, what is a great coach? Great coach is somebody who spends time with each and every employee, build up to it, 8 to 12 minutes a week or every 2 weeks. They ask They listen, they state back. And when you state back, you're demonstrating trust. They don't just go into telling, here's what you need to do versus what do you want to do? It seems trite. It seems a little bit over the top and theatrical. That is a major defining moment that transitions in the right direction. A highly self-aware person is somebody who looks in the mirror, is honest with themselves, understands their emotions, and is willing to go to that next level by understanding who they are, what they do well, and where they have opportunities to improve. Now, there's a little bit of emotional intelligence tenets in there. And so when you think about emotional intelligence, number one, self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, motivation, and social skills are typically the 5 tenets of emotional intelligence. And we all have varying degrees of strengths and opportunities to improve. With that being said, what we have to ask ourselves is, what do we need to do to go to that next level? So when you think about coaching, why we coach, it's to develop people and talent. What is a great coach? A great coach is someone who is present, they have their questions ready, and they're coaching to a specific area over a period of time. They ask, they listen, they state back, they battle telling versus asking, and they demonstrate self-awareness in the people that they're actually coaching. So when we're coaching people, we have to remember one of the things that we have to do, especially with highly self-aware people, when you look at some of these different attributes, and I pulled this off the internet, this is a great graphic. Now, what we promote here at Progress Coaching is something called QALMs. QAL is your conversation model, questions, activities, learning projects. The M is the motivator. So when I'm asking questions such as, Marcia, thinking about your desire of becoming a future leader, what do you think you need to do to handle conflict? And how do you think that will put you in a position of becoming a future leader? Now, let's say Marcia's having a battle of conflict. If I coach to her motivator where she wants to go, but she's not handling conflict well, I can bring those things together so she becomes a willing participant. So that's why we coach everybody. And so when you think about, some of the things that we do here at Progress Coaching, I would really encourage you to check this out, the Self-Awareness 5 program. This is, if you take a screenshot of this, this is a QR code that'll give you information. We actually teach and help people go through 5 stages. It's actually a 6-month endeavor for people to truly self-discover their self-awareness. It is probably one of the best things that we've ever done before. And what I mean by that is the 5 stages make them perform 20 actions, 4 per month, where they cultivate their own self-awareness. At the end, it's amazing. They truly begin to look in the mirror. So do me a favor, take a picture of that, scan it, and then we'll get you information, or information will be sent to you right away. So I hope this helped you. Why we coach. What are some of the things that we need to do? The reason why we coach is so people can look in the mirror. If they're self-aware and we create that emotional attachment of where they want to go with the motivator, everything becomes easier. So again, if you are interested, do me a favor, take another snapshot of this QR code, get the information. We will send you the information on the Self-Awareness 5. And then what we will also do is get you additional information for some other coaching programs if you would like. So with that being said, please check that out. And one of the greatest things about coaching is watching people grow and develop, right? And so when I think about my career, I always think about, and I journal all the people that we've had successes and challenges with. And when we get people to look in the mirror and really be honest, everything else becomes easier. But you don't get there by telling someone. You get there by asking someone questions. Questions trigger a different physiological response. And that's what positions people to have successful coaching. I hope this has been tremendously helpful. Again, ask yourself, why we coach? What is a great coach? Make sure you're battling that telling versus listening. And I promise you good things will happen. Thanks for your time. I hope this is worth it. Put your comments in. Let us know if there's anything we can do to assist you. Thanks, everybody.